Hey, everybody. Josh Sheridan here with the Barely Legal Podcast.
They demand my alter ego, but I won't go. Because of
On today's show, we have Scott Everlovin Anderson from Have Gun Will Travel. This is a band that I have always heard about, and I was so stoked that he reached out to me and said he would be willing to come on the show. I think I first became aware of you through Sean Kyle. He comes up and you guys come up in conversations with him often. And anytime I have a guest on the show as a musician, I try to listen to music that they remind me of or from the ilk. And so today there was a lot of Uncle Tupelo. There was Jayhawks, Early Wilco, obviously Bob Dylan, a very Americana folky type of sound. So if that's your thing, this band is right up your alley. The last week since we kind of discussed you coming on, I've been schooling myself on it, and it's great. It's great music. It's, there's not a bad pick on any of the album. You can kind of listen to the album the whole way through. That's kind of rare these days. And, even though vinyl's become a thing, everything is so single driven. It's like you don't even really need a physical album or even a ideal album. You can just kind of drop releases here.
Drop songs, dropping ones and zeros.
What's your most recent album that came out within the past?
Strange Chemistry.
And is that the one that's kind of a
it's got the red cover with the washed out Marshall stack.
Right, but it's a what's a concept album.
It's not the concept
That's
album.
not the concept album.
The previous
one was a concept
Science
album.
from an Easy Chair was the concept record. That was the one that Sean Kyle produced.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We've self-produced all of our other records, but we needed him to kind of help steer in that concept.
Yeah.
It was the first one where I just played guitar and slide on the record. I didn't, run the board and set up the mics and, drag.
What do you think? Do you like it better that way or?
No.
No, you like that a little bit
I like being into things. I loved working with Sean and I trusted him, and we've known each other for a long time. We've gone through our rows. Like, we've known each other since we were not little kids, but young bucks on the scene or whatever. And, it was a big relationship builder, I think, with him going through that process and handing over the reins of something that I'd steered that boat for records prior to that. And it was a cool experience, we're stoked about the way it turned out and the way it looked and the reviews we got and all that kind of stuff. But
so did you guys produce the newest one?
We did.
Okay.
We self-produced the newest one.
It's funny because, in a lot of ways I compare it, and I say this and then I feel like an imposter because I've never recorded an album or anything, but it's almost like cooking in some way. Like there's a little bit of salt to taste in your this, that,
Absolutely.
and the other. It's
and you taste along the way too.
Right. It's like
referencing
a little bit more, a little bit less. Yeah,
absolutely.
I was listening to a podcast with Troy Saunders, who's the bass player, lead singer for Mastodon, and he was talking about how every album they decide whether they're going to go back and use Brendan O'Brien or they're going to go try someone new. And he was talking about how that's always the debate. Do you date someone else and see how that goes? Or do you tried and true product that what you're going to get?
Brendan O'Brien is a personal hero of mine. I actually saw him playing with the Georgia Satellites, opening for Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band when I was a kid growing up in Atlanta. And he's always been a hero. So if I was them, I'd be, forget about it. I'll record my little stuff on the side. We're going to go make a record.
Are you from Atlanta or California?
From Atlanta.
Atlanta is such an amazing.
I can pull out the accent if I need to.
Well, we'll see if we can get you. I have some Coors Light in the fridge.
I'm going to need a little more than that.
Yeah. So I went to my cousin is an assistant director. He's got his what is it? Not SAG, the Directors Guild, DGA.
The Directors Guild. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's like Hollywood up there. Well, with COVID,
it is now. Yeah.
Well, with COVID and then the whole abortion thing, there was a big pause pressed on it. But he was working on The Walking Dead and working on all this other stuff. But I went up there and visited him, and you'll know where this is. I don't know where this is, but it's kind of their Ybor, and it's like two streets that kind of cross.
Could be a number of places. Could be Buckhead, could be Little Five Points.
I think it was Little Five Points.
Okay, yeah.
There was the Pabst Blue Ribbon Fest they had there, and it was Mastodon and Run the Jewels were the headliners, and that was just an amazing event. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
it was so cool just walking up on that stage and being there. And just, you know, Georgia to me, I've always known Georgia as kind of a pass through to like as a kid driving up to New York or driving up to North Carolina. You know, we'd stop in Savannah or we'd stop in wherever it was.
Trying to get it through Atlanta as fast
Trying to get through Atlanta as fast as possible. But I had no idea that there was such a cultural kind of microcosm there. I don't know if that's recent or always been the case.
It's always been the case. You know, there's always been pockets of resistance, we'll say.
How close is that to Athens?
It's depending on traffic. It's only about maybe 60 miles, I think, from downtown Atlanta to downtown Athens, but it could take you 3 or 4 hours.
Because speaking of Athens, another band that I heard a lot was REM and your guys' music, you know, that kind of Southern indie rock.
Yeah. That's definitely a template for me personally. Because I mean, they were the hometown heroes.
I was thinking about, it's weird to me.
Crying, you know?
Sorry, talking over you.
Sorry.
How they kind of just completely disappeared. I mean, I know they broke up, but they have such a full, long, deep catalog of music, and it's not someone you hear about a lot anymore.
I would say they're kind of similar to U2 in that fact.
I thought that too.
In that they're continuing to put out product and reissues, and you know, if you're in that circle, especially via social media, your feed's going to be full of it, and your fan groups, and I mean, there's still a passionate fan base, right? You know, but yeah, they kind of hit the end of the line and had some health issues, and they're all still friends though. Like they're original
up on other
manager.
albums.
Yeah, right. And they're still playing. Like Peter Buck's doing the baseball project, and
I think he played with the Decemberists, or one of them was playing with the Decemberists. I remember another band that would, you know, I'm building a card that you're playing on as I go through this in my head. Well, there was one of the newer singles I was listening to last night or today. One of them I heard, it was weird. I almost heard a Willie Nelson vocal there. And then there's another one where I heard a very Tom Petty, but both of them kind of have a nasally delivery.
Matt has the seasonal allergies, and sometimes we're recording
that. Depends on when you record it.
Yeah. He pushes through it and makes it happen.
That's awesome. Now, your family, did you come from a musical family, or were you kind of the first?
No one really. My mom played piano when she was a kid. My family is from North Georgia and South Georgia. You know, my parents kind of met in the middle in the Atlanta area, but so that sort of bluegrass Irish style music was pretty heavy on my mom's side. They didn't necessarily play it, but they danced to it, and they went to those Southern style churches and all that kind of stuff. I was going to ask,
were they in the whole Bible Belt scene?
They weren't. My parents, you know, had to grow up in that, you know, going to church and all that kind of stuff. And when I was a kid, they would, you know, drop us off at the church for Sunday school and then go to Waffle House or IHOP or Shoney's or whatever and eat breakfast and come back and pick us up. Try to give you a little bit of religion early on, just to set you straight. It's just, you know, keeping you involved with kids in the community is what it was. And that kind of, you know, my hometown, that particular church and all that kind of stuff, it got a little heavy on the town and the big influence, one of the early mega churches and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of pushed me away. But these days I play in a church band every Sunday. Well, a little community church. Church in Safety Harbor. And, you know, it's super chill and non-judgmental, and there's, you know, open and diverse and really small. Right. And my kids there, my oldest daughter plays piano and sings.
I think that's what happens. I think we are raised in it. Then we get away from it. Then we have kids that bring us back into it.
Right.
I mean, that happens a lot.
I would like to think you get a chance to see through, you know, the followers and the problems with that, and just see through to whatever it is, message it is you're trying to bring your kids. Like there's love and treating people kindly. That's the basis.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the worst thing you can say about it, that's not too bad. Yeah. And then spend an hour being mindful, thoughtful, and maybe, you know, even if you just go in and meditate, it's not bad. But there's also a very rich history, musical history with all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's kind of inextricably intertwined with the South, you know, so you have that Southern bluegrass, but there's also that kind of choir,
rich
gospel type of stuff. So,
and I've really dug into that as a lap steel player the last 14, 15 years. That's kind of what I want to sound like, is psychedelic gospel.
So I had John Nowicki talking to twangy dread with me the other day, and now I got you talking psychedelic gospel.
And I'm just dressing up songs with that type of every other song maybe that I play lap steel on, but that's the sound that I hear in my head when I play the lap steel. It's not the quick country runs and the pedal steel kind of stuff. It's real spacey, and throw some delay and some tremolo on it and really create a space, you know, for things to shine through.
For sure. Now, were you in bands in high school, or?
Yeah, my first gig was Valentine's Day, 1992. So 28 years ago.
Is it a
I played
grunge
my
band?
first paid gig. Yeah. It was.
You're right in the meat of Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden
absolutely,
and Alice in Chains and all that stuff.
But we were in the South in the exurbs then. Now it's suburban Atlanta.
Sure.
I lived on a rural route,
right?
And now it's it's a concrete route.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that area has really grown the last 20 years or whatever. But we had my best friend and I were still best friends to this day, and he spent some time in Have Gun Will Travel and was part of the band that moved here when I moved from Atlanta to Tampa area.
Was the guitar the first thing you picked up, or?
Yeah, my dad had an Ibanez Telecaster lawsuit era guitar laying around the house. My mom had gotten him for Christmas or anniversary or something, birthday or something one year when I was a little kid, and I started picking it up when I was 5 or 6 years old. He taught me how to play Monday, and
I was going to ask what type of
House
music
of the
was
Rising Sun. They were classic rock.
Dad music, for people our age.
CCR, like all the stuff I
Neil Young,
frankly still listen to.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't so much into Neil.
Okay,
he was not so much of the hippie type. He just liked the music.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a little more Southern, a little more conservative in that regard.
Gotcha.
Still like the rock and roll. I've got a younger sister.
Is she musical at all?
No, she was a dancer.
Okay.
She was actually in the, jazz, tap, ballet, all that stuff. She was a Georgia Tech on the dance team at Georgia Tech, and was actually in the opening and closing ceremonies in the 96 Olympics.
Oh, wow. Is that the
big picture that was in the...
Is that the Richard Jewell one?
Yes.
Have you seen that movie?
I have not yet, no.
Sam Rockwell in that movie. The guy who plays Richard Jewell's great too.
Right.
But Sam Rockwell in that movie, he plays an attorney in that movie. And I love his character so much in that movie. Yeah. And it's almost become in the past year for me, like a touchstone for me. Like, he's the guy who's calling, the insurance companies or the whomever motherfuckers on the phone. It's like,
right.
He's like, where my office is. You can meet me out in the park. That type of guy. And so it's like, that's the type of attorney I want to be. Sorry to go off on a tangent.
No, that's cool. That's
Were you there when that happened?
I was not. I was actually out of town the entire time.
Okay.
I was out west with my girlfriend at the time and her family in Arizona. And we kind of got out of town. But I went to Georgia State and I lived in Cherokee County. It's a 50-mile.
So you're right there.
One-way commute every single day for 5 years to college. So we had this countdown. As soon as they won, they had this big billboard countdown that started like 1,300 days or whatever. I watched every single one of those
click off.
Sat in traffic for hours in the dark every morning, like watching those numbers click off.
So how long did you stay in Atlanta until you? I
moved from Atlanta to here with our band at the time when I was 24. So summer of 99.
Why Tampa?
We had actually played the Brass Mug on tour and had a great time. We had a couple of the people in the band at the time had some family members in the area. So we were able to kind of come down and check it out. We loved the vibe. I'd actually spent time with my parents in the late 70s in St. Pete and Crystal River and Inglis and all that stuff. My parents were in the construction business.
Okay.
And late 70s, the oil embargo and all that stuff, recession hit Atlanta. So they came down here and built 275. And
plus, we're always good for a couple hurricanes to knock everything down that you got to rebuild.
I knew the area. I liked, the vibe and all that kind of stuff. And we just moved down here to an apartment sight unseen that we had found in one of those apartment books. We actually called to rent an apartment.
For sure,
we didn't go online or anything like that. And just took a step.
What was your day job?
We had jobs set up to move down here with. We're in telemarketing.
Yeah.
Selling those 3-day ventures to the timeshare deals.
That's
Orlando,
a good job for a musician because
it doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
Timeshares have kind of lost.
It's all automated.
Favor.
Plus, no one's selling that stuff anymore. Yeah. But or outsourced.
It got us here, and got me underway and helped buy the house that we still live in and all that kind of stuff.
Now, the band that you moved here from Atlanta to Tampa with, was that Have Gun Will Travel?
No.
Okay.
That was a band called Burdenfly, and it was me and Dean Johannesson.
I've heard the name.
Familiar with him? He lives in Sarasota now.
Okay.
He's a singer.
Evidently, Sarasota's a thing. I had Owen.
He lives down
back.
There
yeah, so I'm becoming acquainted with the world of Sarasota and Manatee music scene.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of colleges down there and lots of money from elsewhere.
Sure.
So that it draws people.
Oh, for sure.
There was work to be done.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of venues down there, though. A lot of restaurant type
Yeah.
gigs and beach type gigs. But
Well, we go to Anna Maria every summer, and there's starting to be a little littering of them out that way,
Right,
but it's kind of so remote that.
But it's usually the corner of the restaurant, not a stage with lights,
100%.
performance venue type of thing. But, so Dean and I and our band Bird and Fly moved down here in the summer of '99, and that lasted a couple years, and then that.
What type of music was that?
It was very much in the kind of Uncle Tupelo versus Pearl Jam type of thing. Like the guitar player and I were definitely Southern, and like in that kind of had to have those Skinnerty type leads in our thing,
right?
Which Pearl Jam also did.
Oh yeah,
but the drummer and Dean were both from New York area, and it was a little heavier, like
a little hard, a little bit more hardcore,
and, and like White Zombie, and like we were everybody in that era was into a lot of different kind of stuff, and we'd all kind of grown up in skateboarding and that entree into punk rock when we were little kids, you know what I mean, and seeing it on MTV and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of like a raucous replacement seed Uncle Tupelo-y thing, but with a little more of the kind of Pearl Jam-y, grungy bent.
And so how long did that last for once you got down there?
We were a band up there 4 or 5 years and, did some touring and a lot of Atlanta stuff. And then we were down here 3 years, I think.
Okay.
99, 2000, 2001. And then like the fall, winter of 2001, I think was kind of when that kind of ended up.
Dried up. And
then the rest of the guys kind of moved away, and Dean and I started a band called The Human Condition.
Okay.
And we did that for a number of years. And I kind of faded in and out of that because I had started playing with Will Quinlan.
Okay.
And I'd started playing with Matt Burke.
Okay.
We did the first Have Gun Will Travel EP, was just a solo side project from the Chase Theory.
Okay.
And we had met the Chase Theory because a buddy of ours in Atlanta had moved to Bradenton and became best friends with the Burke brothers.
Okay.
Before we ever moved down here. So they're like, you got to meet our buddy. We got to meet our buddy. Our mutual friend ended up passing away. We ended up playing shows with the Chase Theory. So I knew Matt and Danny and JP and all those guys.
For those who aren't in the know,
this goes way.
Sure. No, for sure. Let's talk about Human Condition and Chase Theory. Where was Human Condition in the evolution of your sound or your direction?
That's a good question. I really don't know.
It's got a very new wave. I hear a new order.
Well, no. It was very much a darker singer-songwriter-y type thing, moving away from the big anthemic type stuff, moving away from a lot of the punkier influences and a little more jazzy or a little more funk a little bit, and maybe even a little more progressive. Like we had a couple players who were like a progressive type drummer or like, really good bass players and, people that would come in and kind of influence the sound. And after I left that band, they moved a little bit further in the jam scene and played like the Orange Blossom Jamboree.
Right.
We're doing Dunedin Brewery and, kind of moved towards that scene as I was headstrong into the Americana post-punk thing.
And what about Chase Theory?
Well, Chase Theory was like one of the earlier emo bands, or second wave emo bands. They were on one of the Emo Diaries compilations and did put out, I think, Jade Tree? I think they put a record out on. Like they made some headroads and toured the country and did the whole thing in that emo post-hardcore world. And then they were, as that was wasn't really waning, but they weren't touring as much. And, just everybody's just kind of doing their thing in mid-20s. Matt started this little Have Gun thing on the side and with his 4-track recorded
I'm trying to,
an EP.
I go back in my mind and it's fuzzy now, like the chicken and the egg type of, was it Wilco? Was it
Uncle Tupelo was the original band?
No. I'm trying to think what was my first entry point to Americana, alt country, whatever you want to call it. And there's some conflagration of Ryan Adams, Wilco, and then
so if it was Wilco, it was post Uncle Tupelo.
Well, no,
Tupelo when they were.
What's Justin Townsend's dad's first name?
Steve Earle.
Yeah. Like I remember he had that one album, Jerusalem, or something that was really big. I'm just in the timeline of what started because I had
where that sound starts to land in your timeline.
In my timeline, because I went to college up at UCF and there was a bar up there. I think it was called 8 Seconds. It was a rodeo type bar, and that was the heyday of what I like to call Walmart country, just Kenny Chesney, and it's a very kind of conservative, not my bag at all. And it really kind of unfairly tainted my ability to
Even any country
at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I was that way for a long time.
and
for sure.
luckily that's receded over time. I found I think I found Townes Van Zandt through Big Lebowski soundtrack or something like that.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And then I went into that catalog, and then you can do Waylon Jennings, or you can do, there's just all sorts of different directions you go, but you start to realize, only a very small ratio of country is that kind of, Jimmy Buffett country, as it were.
Sure. Yeah,
and, no, I'm not harshing on Jimmy Buffett, but, but then this whole other world opens up for you. And then there was the Drive-By Truckers and Justin Townes Earl and Jason Isbell. And
well, growing up in Atlanta and being close to Athens, like, Drive-By Truckers were another local band.
Yeah. Like, now, who's his dad's? Who's
Patterson's dad is David Hood.
Yeah.
He was a bass player in the Swampers.
Right, right. So there's a lot of lineage that.
But he was like, "Fuck you, Dad! I'm going to Athens and playing punk rock." Like they weren't. He wasn't making records in Muscle Shoals and like riding those coattails, or punk kids didn't know what Muscle Shoals was at that time in that history.
Well,
he was,
So luckily, it's kind of
trip.
Created a whole other world from that now. And I think it's pulled away enough from it now that it's its own separate thing. And I don't even know, like, not that you have to label it as anything, but, I know that it kind of early on got the alt country tag, and that kind of become hackneyed and a little bit, not insulting, but, divisive a little bit. Yeah. And now it's kind of splintered off into all these different directions.
And it's a blanket Americana thing.
Yeah.
Which, if you're Americana Music Association, it's more country and more Nashville and more Austin. And
have you played in Nashville? Gone in Nashville?
We've played in Nashville off and on the whole time.
That's become it's always been a thing, but now it seems like it's having a resurgence.
Yeah, and it's costing more to live there.
Oh yeah, it's becoming
It's like Austin in that same way. Like the ability to move there and make music isn't really happening. You have to keep getting further and further away from it.
Right. So you've been in Have Gun since the very beginning.
Yes. It was just him, and I've also been in the club business on and off throughout this whole time, and booking shows and promoting shows and running nightclubs and that sort of world. Because I was also a raver kid in the 90s in Atlanta. And
you're a Renaissance man, skateboarder, raver.
I was the guy that would wear a Willie Nelson shirt to a rave, and have a blast.
I love that.
1,000 people.
Or Steely Dan to a podcast.
Or this is a Sonic Youth take. I had to get the shirt when I saw the Facebook.
That's Raymond Pettibone art, which I got that book down there too.
But so I forgot what are.
So you're talking about the first album. I was asking about.
Yeah. Matt did kind of the side project thing, and he sent it to WMNF, and they started playing the song "Silver in the Age of Opulence." And he had a MySpace page, and we were friends, and he had that as one of the songs that he was playing on there. And I just became obsessed with this song, and I knew him, and we were friends, but we weren't like buddies.
Yeah.
We just played shows together or whatever. And I actually booked him for his first ever solo show. I was working at the Bank in St. Pete.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
I do.
That club?
Yeah.
I worked there. I was kind of the production director, and I booked the shows and did the flyers and the ads and all that, and then did the sound and all that kind of stuff. Michael Glebicki from Rusted Root was doing a solo tour date off of a Jam Cruise or something like that. Needed an opener, and I was actually working with Joran doing you remember, Joran Appel? He had the Southeastern Music Alliance. He would do he had a Wednesday songwriter series for a long time with Rebecca Pulley and Will Quinlan and Steve Connolly and all those guys, St. Pete based guy. He was kind of the co-promoter on the deal, but we booked Matt, and that was the first time he'd ever played on stage by himself. I didn't know that at the time. I found
you pull it off?
Oh yeah. He had a couple cocktails and get a little bit loose to get over the anxiety hill that we all kind of experience these days.
Kick the tires and
But he pulled it off. We started talking. I was like, man, I'd really like to play with you. I just started playing with Will Quinlan, just got a lap steel. I was like, I've got an idea for that song. I hear something in my head for that song, Silver in the Age of Opulence. And he ended up he did like an EP release of that at Fogartyville in Bradenton, Sarasota area. And I played like 4 or 5 songs with him, and his brother Danny played electric guitar on a couple songs. And that was kind of the first time that was the first Have Gun Will Travel show.
Was there a discussion at any point? Like, what are we trying to
not really
aim for here? Or let's just play and see what it sounds like.
What happened was like the response to that one song in that EP was phenomenal.
Was this like 2011? What year was this?
No, this was 06.
Okay.
Maybe 05, 06.
But you're kind of hitting right at the right time. I mean, that's
WMNF picked it up and started playing it. I booked him a show, and then other people started booking him to open, and then it just kind of became a thing where, hey, JP, you want to play drums? We're not doing the Chase Theory right now. You want to play drums?
Right.
He just ported right on over and got rods instead of sticks and brushes, and and we just went in that direction. We had a viola player at the time, our buddy Josh Hernandez, who's now a chef at Ava.
Oh yeah.
He opened Ava and then opened the one at
Sparkman Wharf.
Not Sparkman, but the other
Armature Works.
Armature.
Yeah.
Now he's in Charlotte, opening another one in Charlotte.
Charlotte's getting kind of a little scene there.
Yeah. But he was our viola player, and so we had that kind of that really folky.
Have you played in North Carolina, like the Asheville?
We've played.
What a great town! There's just a lot of great.
I was thinking about that on the way here today to kind of like, I've driven to shows in nearly every major city in the country.
Yeah,
like we've done a lot of touring over the last 14 years as a band. And I do all the driving because I'm kind of gotta be it keeps me from drinking too much.
Yeah.
So early on it was way more into that kind of folky kind of delivery. And as now we've kind of graduated into a rock band. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we still have those types of shows and we still play a lot of those songs, and we got keyboards and straight drums and electric guitars, and
that's where I started to think I heard the Petty type a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's the keyboard player for Petty?
Ben Montench.
Ben Montench, yeah. You know, I always love that sound. I love it. You know, the Ryan Adams album before he took a shit and died had a lot of that in there. It was pretty cool. Yeah, that's such a hard one for me because
it's so disappointing. It's like Bill Cosby.
It's come on, Woody Allen, Bill Cosby. You know, and
all these heroes of ours who we looked up to in all these different ways just turn out to be shitty people.
I've talked about this I've talked about this so much, and I just wonder, had Facebook and cell phones been around in, Bowie and Jagger, and
sure.
they would have been just lambasted right away.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't, grossly projecting onto 18 and 19-year-old women.
No.
They were grossly projecting onto 12 and 13 and 14-year-old
Oh,
women.
yeah. I mean, Robert Plant Jimmy Page. I mean, you hear all these stories. Yeah, just craziness.
Yeah, it's a different world we live in, and that's
they got in under the wire again.
Right. And that's part of the responsibility of still doing this thing today. We're all married and have kids. Like, we've toured all that time. We've never gone down that road. Like,
right.
That's not our thing. Our thing is to play music and have some.
Well, to be around as long as you guys have been around, you kind of had to have figured out a way to kind of avoid that stuff. Not that, I mean, obviously the Stones are still playing and they've done everything.
We don't quite have as many kids as they do.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of kids in our band.
How has the sound, you've mentioned a little bit, has gotten a little bit more of a rock vibe to it than it did in the beginning. Has the writing changed at all? The subject matter?
Actually, this most recent record is the first one where Matt has specifically gotten into writing more from a personal experience and more from as opposed to a narrative or made up story or setting the scene or talking about a town or something like that. He's talking about anxiety. He's talking about the world that we live in and the different things that we want to do in a positive way and what we're thankful for. And, it's like, it's the first one that has gotten over that hump to where it's, you're starting to learn a little bit about Matt Burke. And he's such an amazing songwriter. If you go back to the records prior to that, very clever, very gifted in turn of phrase and creating melodies and harmonies and all that kind of stuff. But most recently, it's definitely, as we've gotten to that more visceral type of sound, I think it's opened him up to being more open to experiencing that on the stage and in his writing.
Being a songwriter, I don't want to say it's the most difficult aspect of a band, but there's so many traps to avoid, either sounding hack or aping off of somebody else or being too on the nose or too abstract or,
right.
you know, all that stuff. And it's just a very, like, I don't know. I'm interested in your opinion. Do you think it's something that you can become better at, or do you think it's something that you kind of have or you don't have?
I think it's something you have or you don't have.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
I think what I do is something you can learn and become better at it as you get older. I think as a songwriter, as somebody who's able to succinctly put down something with no fear.
Yeah.
And put that into something you're going to perform for other people, sometimes strangers, sometimes friends, whatever the case may be. Like, that's something I think you're born with. I really do. I mean, maybe if you're 15, 16, 18, you're a young man, you're still trying to figure out what's going on in the world, you might be able to get on that path. But, you know, if you're 25 and trying to figure out, you're not going to
become Springsteen.
You're not going to write that solo record that takes things out of the box that you're already in, you know?
Yeah.
I'm talking about myself there. I'm not going to write that solo record. It's going to blow you guys away.
In a lot of ways, that's what this podcast has become for me, because this is like the closest I'll get to being in a cool band, is having a bunch of other people from cool bands on.
And, you know, really, we were talking about this at rehearsal last night. Like, we hung out for like 3 hours. But we only played like 6 songs, and we recorded drum tracks to a song. But it was more about the hang and about the communication and the relationship. It's like very personal networking. You know what I mean? Like, part of this business is
it's kind of like sex a little bit. I mean, it's
yeah. There's a lot of foreplay.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, when everybody's moving in the right way and everything's hitting the right spots.
A good song's what, 3 minutes long?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other time in the world. Like, you've got to be able to do that so that when you get that time to either perform that song, write that song, record that song, whatever it is, like, if you're in a good place, especially with good people, and you're all in the same place and vibing, like, that's way more powerful thing than
not only that, but
on your own, you know.
In this environment, just, you know, it's like we're gasping for air, gasping for something that's pure, gasping for something that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're in a smoke-filled room, and it's just like, give me some kind of leave, you know, just even for a few minutes. So that's, you know, to me now, as much as I've loved music, now it's even more important to me. And I'm really interested to see what comes of this. I really hope.
Right. Yeah.
You know, from a couple different angles. You mentioned that you worked in the, you know, the venue part of this as well. You know, I've been talking a lot with Tom at Crowbar and hearing about all that stuff and trying to help out any way I can with that. But I'm hoping that it rebounds even stronger than it was, if that's possible. And I'm hoping some great music and just a bounty of touring happens at some point.
I am too. And, you know, it depends on a lot of different things. And, you know, as you mentioned, Tom has taken the lead and is fighting for those things that the industry actually needs, which is our resources.
Right.
You know, like even then those resources that are on the table aren't going to the bands who struggled through this and have had to try to figure out what do I do with my life.
Yeah.
It's hopefully going to go to the venues and save those venues that, like Crowbar and others, that make up the touring network.
Right.
And we've been to a lot of those. We played a lot of those venues, and, you know, half of them that we've played over the time have probably closed through this.
Well, you know? So one of the shows I was listening to recently, they were kind of talking about, where do you think this goes? Is it people playing at a lot of VAs and festivals again, or is it going to be generator parties out in the middle of?
I think there's a couple different ways to go. Well, like, there's the punk rock, you know,
anywhere.
Pirate rave out in the woods type of thing that's going to happen, is happening. You know, there's warehouse raves happening all over the place these days. That's one thing. Another thing is like the Hideaway and like the Crowbar and the places that are known for presenting live music. They're now going to be presenting a premium product because they're managing it correctly.
Right.
They have the resources. They have the staff. They're a kitchen now. They can operate the way they're, you know what I mean?
Sure.
When the people that are going to be able to check all the boxes, that kind of moves up market a little bit. Like, I would want to pay extra for that environment to be able to go to a show and know I'm going to be able to do what I want to do and experience that thing. I think there's certainly opportunity there.
I wonder if there'll be a renewed appreciation for it.
I certainly.
I mean, I tell you, this will be the first
That's
year.
the message I get from everybody I know. Is
like, I want so badly to go to a live show.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care who. Like, I just want to go.
Yeah.
Because that does something for you. And again, it's that filling your lungs up with something good and pure. That's not all the shit that we're digesting on a daily basis.
The last 15 years, actually the last 25 years, I've probably played 100 shows a year and gone to 100 shows a year. Like that's a huge part of my life. And nearly everybody I know is a result of those things. So
How much
totally
of a line
isolated.
bender has it been for you?
It's been pretty crazy. Unfortunately, I built a studio in my backyard and completed it in January.
Oh, wow.
So it's
You'll have to send me some pics.
I've been dialing it in and getting it sounding good. I've done a couple records there. People you'd know, including Poetry and Lotion.
Yeah,
we haven't finished it yet, but we got some good stuff a couple weekends.
Those guys are so great. I mean, I'm loving this whole world that I'm getting introduced
to.
Yeah. Have you been inspired by what's going on to write or create, or has it kind of?
Yes. That's kind of a funny thing. I'm not short of inspiration. I never really have been. Like I'm always just like
ready to do something. Yeah.
You know, like that sort of 12-year-old punk rock spirit is still there.
That's good.
And that's why I'm still going to the skate park and I ride my bike like 9 or 10 miles a day. Or it's just like, I've got to get out there and put my energy into something so that when I get the opportunity to have the guys over and do a session or go play a very well managed show, I'm going to be ready.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take myself out of the game by hating myself because I'm in this situation. You know, it's completely out of my hands.
Well, it seems like you're weathering it well.
Yeah, that's exactly what
what
my therapist said.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's great.
Have you guys, and you don't have to say yes or no, but I mean, have you started looking at re-entering the world of playing live?
Yeah. We have 3 confirmed shows on the books, all tightly managed, socially distanced, mask requirements, and less seated.
How do you think that's going to impact the experience of a live show with you guys?
I think we have a loving audience who are going to appreciate us setting that example.
Sure.
And them teaching us and us teaching them how to handle this.
Right.
You know, it's just like how do you raise good kids? You spend a lot of time with them. And you do your best.
Be present with them and just love them as much.
That's the type of situations we want to create. And the first one back, and we told Tom this when he shut down, I was like, we're not playing until you're back open.
Yeah.
We've had offers the entire time. You want to do this, you want to do that. And I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. We're way in the red compared to the last 10, 12 years at this point in the year. But you know, we are committed to him and knowing that we can trust him to do things the right way and for him to set the example.
Right.
Knowing everybody on his staff and loving all of them and having, you know, obviously the history that we have there, that was, you know, a big part of it. But that's the first show back. It's going to be October 16th, I think.
Yeah, I saw he put that list out. So
I'm terrible with dates, but I have it in my phone. That's
fine. Oh, well, I'll look it up and I'll put it in.
It's the first proper show back. I think he's doing Old Dirty Sunday, which I love that.
So how long has it been? How long will it have been between your last show?
Our last show was in February, Valentine's Day weekend, at the Safety Harbor Art Music Center, right down the street from my house. That's the longest I've been in 25 years without.
I was going to ask. So what do you think that's going to be like? Do you think it's?
I don't.
Do you get nervous anymore? Or
I'm nervous every time I do something important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it's rehearsal, recording session, going to pick up my kids after a big day, or, you know, seeing my wife after being out of town, whatever it is, I get a little anxious because I'm excited about it. Something I care about. I always get nervous before shows, and I think that's a good thing. Keeps me in the game.
Are you doing any other stuff on the side besides producing? Like, have you thought of any other projects that you know, is there a different type of medium that's speaking to you, or?
That's a good question. I also
Kyle's poured all of his heart into home renovation and selling motorcycles now.
I've been doing a lot of that. I've been, you know, dialing in my studio under lockdown, like building the panels and moving things around, taking measurements, and I upgraded my speakers, and you know, that's kind of where my head is.
Right.
Like, that's something I plan to ride out for a long time.
Yeah.
I've always just loved being in the studio. I don't necessarily love recording myself, you know, or performing in the studio. That's another pile of anxiety altogether, because you're getting ready to marry that for the rest of recorded history as soon as you okay that track.
I think about that often, that what a shame it is for the artist to hate the music that we all love. And not that they hate it, but like,
right. Oh, yes,
you know,
they hate it.
Your
They
songs
hate
that people love, you're probably like,
oh, I'm still mixing every record we have.
Yeah, I never put it down.
I know exactly what was wrong and where I missed. And, you know, it's very self-conscious type.
Well, that was a question. I think I was asking Owen about it. And I've had Dimitri Stoyanovich, some other people on that are, you know, always telling me about the mixing of a record. And are you able to enjoy recorded music like you could before you knew what you were hearing?
I have to choose listening techniques to get to that. I try to listen to something that I want to enjoy for the music by itself through like the worst possible sound quality. Like just my phone on a table in a cup, or just the TV in the other room while I'm doing something else. It's like I have to split my brain as a passive listener. Then I can just enjoy it as music. Yeah. If it's something I dig into and I like the writing, or I want to dig into the engineering, or I want to really get into the space, then I'll take it out to the studio, put it up on the speakers, put on the nice headphones, and dig into that. And it's like totally opposite sides of my brain. Yeah, there's that, not exactly on that point, but kind of reminded me of it. It's two different things. Was Martin Hannett, who produced Joy Division. Okay. I don't know if you ever saw 24-Hour Party People. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he's like, he put the drummer on the roof and he put the other thing. And it's like, you're going to sound like you're drumming on a cardboard box. Yeah. He's like, I've done the like mic'd up everything before. This is going to sound like you're hitting drywall with the spatula. Right. Yeah. Because there's no reflection. Right. You're outside. It's not going to come back. But what a beautiful part of that band that was. And then another one was I started getting into the Norwegian black death metal stuff. And I mean that those people went out of their way to make it sound as shitty as possible. Right. We're going to record everything into one tape recorder, not be tuned. Just but there's do you know who Lars von Trier is? I'm familiar, not so he's a director. He's Scandinavian of some regard, if not German or something. He's very much an agitator and an instigator. Like he's always known for saying things that get him in trouble and all this stuff. But he had this whole series of films where it's a film movement, and the whole thing about it was adding obstacles into creation, or conversely removing everything that wasn't absolutely necessary. Right. Yeah. And so when you're talking about that, it's like, you know, let's take all the production out of it. Let's take all the bells and whistles and like, what can you do just on your own? Divorce yourself from the experiences you've had before and just like experience this brand new. Right. Actually, what got me thinking about that yesterday, do you know Matt Walker? He's a guitar player and Someday Honey. Yes. He's one of the most amazing musicians I've ever seen. But he posted something yesterday, like, how do I get that fresh feeling of listening to music again? I'm, trying to develop techniques, and it made me think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I just throw my phone on the table and then I'm busy doing something else and I'm actually enjoying it passively in a more visceral type of way. Just using my ears. My brain isn't attached to it. My heart and my experiences aren't attached to it. It's just music. It's true. I mean, I love it like that. Well, it's like on a mixing board. Like you can turn one knob and the song sounds differently. So one thing that I do, which is kind of off topic a little bit, but sometimes if I'm having a bad week or a bad day, I'll just drive home a way I've never driven home before. Oh yeah. And just if all of these things every day add up to this, maybe if I just switch out, this for that. You're just looking for find yourself in a different place. Have you thought about for you any kind of a singer songwriter solo type of deal or no? Not really. Like that's not you're like one of hundreds of people who've asked me that over the years, and I really don't have that desire. Well, if I were to do something like that, it'd be way more in the like dance music production type of thing, and I've done quite a bit of that in a whole other world that I occupy. Well, it's funny because that's not really something that I seek out, but I find little entry points into it, like M83 or But I had on the show earlier this week Vetno. I don't know if you're and she had her new single came out today, and dark wave synth pop whatever, and I really dug it. I mean, I was sounds like I kept saying Tangerine Dream. I don't know why that was. I got stuck on. In your head, but so it's expanding my tastes, and so very cool.
So, are you living off of music right now?
No,
or
absolutely
okay.
not. I'm living off of the grace of my wife, who has a pretty decent job, and we have 3 kids, so it's super tight, and we're always like scraping together money and just trying to figure it out. I'm hoping this business gets back to where we can start making money again. And I bartend at Crooked Thumb Brewery early in the week. Every week. I've been on leave from there for about a month. My mom's having some health issues. I spent some time in Atlanta. But that's on track, and I'm actually going back to work for the first time next Tuesday in about a month. So,
what do the kids think of Dad? Do they think Dad's cool, or are they tired of hearing Dad?
That was the other thing. I was a stay-at-home dad for all 3 of them.
Oh wow!
I've changed like 17,000
Congratulations,
diapers.
by the way.
I've caught every type of output from children.
Oh my Lord!
And I'm very much invested in. That's my songwriting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's where my freedom and my creativity goes into creating a space for them.
Right.
And that's a big part of who I am and why I do those things.
Kids. And then I lost both my parents in the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. And between my parents and my kids, I'm not even the same person remotely that I was 8 years ago.
Right.
And so
it's like your greatest loves and your biggest fears are all.
Well, yeah. Well, the 2 things, one is with the kids is, you're no longer front and center,
Oh yeah.
So, and I think that's a good thing because especially for Americans, because we're a little bit too much the focus of our own story. So that's number 1. But number 2 with the parents is something about you're now the elder, or you're, right. There's no one above you in the hierarchy. Like you're the next one to go.
That's the big responsibility you got to take.
Yeah. So those are things that kind of really change the perspective on life, art, everything. And so I'm always interested, especially where artists' careers have kind of begun before and ended after, seeing how that informed their music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for us, we all have kids. Just between Danny and myself, we have 7.
Oh, wow. What makes band practice easier? Just put a slip and slide out front. And
Yeah. But we've always we're all that way. Like we got wives and kids first.
Right.
And as soon as everything's taken care of there, then we can go create without the burden of, disappointment or not providing or whatever it is. It's like, and then if something's going on with a band and it's all tense and tight, you don't want to take that home and disturb that space. So it's like, that's the balancing act. But we've been fortunate. Our wives and children are very much a part of this, very much supportive. Like most of our kids have either sang or played on the records,
right?
As in background
that's
and all
awesome.
that kind of stuff. It's been a little while, but more as when they were younger kids, we'd have them singing on it.
Any of them playing any instruments?
Yeah, my oldest daughter's a piano player. She's classically trained since she was 4, so she's been training like 12 years now. She runs circles around me.
Do you bring her stuff and what do you think of this?
A little bit here and there.
Yeah.
She's in the musical theater world.
Okay.
She goes to Gibbs
in
the musical theater direction. And, they're shut down right now too. So all those kids are losing their minds. They have no outlet to perform.
I still don't even think we've even begun to conceptualize what impact this will all have had on everything. It's crazy.
And actually all 3 of mine take piano. Matt's daughter, plays a little guitar, plays a little piano, but sings. Matt does every Wednesday on Facebook Live.
Right.
Solo from home, working through our catalog. We've got 6 or 7 records out, so there's a lot to work through. And then she'll bring a song and he'll play and let her sing, and they've been killing it. They did Hallelujah last night and just ripped people up. Or Wednesday night. I fell asleep early because I got up too early that day.
Well, because we're closer to 50 than 40.
Yeah,
and it's
and I'm on this thing right now where I get up at 5 in the morning and I go on a 10, 12 mile bike ride before the sunrise.
I need to do something. So the reason I was late, I'm sorry again, is I went and had my eyes checked and she just told me that there was a white halo, not in the retina, but in the, I don't know, but she's like, but she's like, that's indicative of high cholesterol. And I've never had issues with cholesterol. So now I'm like, well, I know I've not done well through COVID. There's been a lot of wine consumed. There's been a lot of,
I had a few weeks like that where I was like, shit, I can drink 6 beers. I don't have anywhere to go today, tomorrow, or the next day.
They can't smell my breath over Zoom.
Yeah, it does not matter. And that was kind of what kicked me into all right, I got to go to the skate park. I got to go take a bike ride. I got to get out and sweat off these 8 beers I drank.
You look lean and mean.
I've got a lot of miles in since that time. It was like mid-April when I was like, I've got to turn this.
Doesn't it seem like 10 years ago?
It does. It
it's
really
just
does.
insane.
I've certainly aged. I've picked up a few new grays.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, I'm sitting every day. I'm in court on Zoom, and I'm looking at the wrinkles in my forehead and the crow's feet and all this. I was like, Jesus, when did that happen?
Yeah.
And I've always, like people have said, you should put color in your beard. And I was like, it's like Clint Eastwood didn't put color in his beard. I'm not putting color in my beard, but now the more I'm doing, I was like, I could use some color.
Right.
I'm not going to do it.
At that
well, you can charge more. You can charge more for grad. I look much more learned and intellectual
absolutely
than I used to. Well, thank you so much for coming by.
You're welcome,
I appreciate it. You guys are such a big staple of the local scene, and it's great music. I highly recommend it for those of you who maybe haven't heard of them. The few of you that there are, it's something you can put on a Sunday and just have on all day, and it's a soundtrack for good times, which we need right now.
Right on.
Really appreciate you. I wish you the best of luck. Wish your kids the best of luck. And thank you so much for making the drive over the bridge.
I appreciate it. That we didn't even get into all these years with Will Quinlan. I've been his guitar player this entire time too.
Well, let's do that.
Well, no, I just want to give him a shout out real quick.
Well,
he played last night, and I didn't get to go. So
where do you play?
He played at New World. Mark Etherington, Mountain Holler. Have
you been at the new one yet?
Yeah, we've done with Will. We've done a couple live broadcasts from there.
How does it compare to the?
It's beautiful. Have you been there?
I haven't. No, that's what I'm asking.
How they were able to take every element from the old one and build a new one out of that and new stuff is incredible.
And you think they're gonna survive through this?
I feel really bad that this hit them.
It took
so long to get them open. I mean, they opened like 2-3 weeks prior to the shutdown, and have been back open. But they're just starting to do stuff outside and do stuff inside. But
this is another thing. We're gonna have a couple. This is an encore. This is our encore. Yeah. He walked out of the room, and now he's coming back in to do his greatest.
I can't shut up.
Yeah, no. Well, I wonder if maybe this will be a jumping off point for a renewed focus on local music, because
I certainly hope so, and that's kind of what I've been seeing all along. The touring business is not starting back
for sure. Yeah, and I've been hearing 2022 maybe before it's worth it for people to.
Big tours are typically run with insurance and all of those things.
Well, plus you have to sell a certain amount of tickets. You can't be cutting your ticket sales in half and all that sort of stuff.
Can't cut revenue down and blow up your risk.
Right,
for sure.
But right. So I'm hoping
there's
that maybe
opportunity for that regional strengthening of both talent and scenes and businesses, in the venues.
Do you know Joe DeCunto?
Oh yeah.
I was
brothers for sure.
Talking to him last night, and he's going to come on soon. And I was talking to him. I was like, I wish somehow. It's funny you said Nashville, not specifically Nashville, but. The greatest thing about this podcast in the past year is it's just been a love story for me with local music. I just wasn't,
right.
It wasn't something I sought out. I didn't feel I wasn't negative on it, but I was just right. I think most people just know commercial or maybe indie is a step further.
Sure. Right.
But then there's the local scene, which unless you just happen upon someone, it's not so easily accessible or not put in your face so much. You kind of have to work at it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's so rewarding in this town, and there's such a deep lineup, a strong breadth of all types of stuff. One of the bands, I grew up in St. Pete, and I went to high school with, he's now Dr. Pat Klemowish, but he was just Pat Klemowish at the time. And he, do you know Pat?
I don't know.
So he was the original guitarist for the Hip Abduction. And, he looks like fucking Thor. He's like 6'5". He's a world-class paddleboarder. He's a Harvard graduate. He's a doctor. Yeah. He lives out on the beach, and and it's not a type of music again that I'd seek out, but it's kind of like world music, Paul Simon reggae. Okay. So, and they all of a sudden became a band. I was like just putting them on constantly. My kids loved them and all this other stuff. And so then with Gasparilla Music Festival, and they had the Reggae Rise Up and all this other stuff, a lot of these local bands, were breaking through to the wider audience locally.
That scene in particular has done really well the last 5-6 years.
So, I was talking to DeCunto. I said, what do you think would be the draw? What would be the what would be the spark that could kind of set this off as a scene again after all this happened? And I'm interested if you have an answer to that. I was wondering if I was
what did Joe say? What Joey did?
Well, one of the things he said things he said I can't say on the air, but I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
Oh, that's the kind of conversations he and I have.
Well, probably. Well, I kept saying someone needs to get in Jeff Finnick's ear, and I'll leave it at that. But I was like, wouldn't it be great if there was a Prince Albert Hall or a Grand Ole Opry or a
destination
venue that the venue is almost as much the draw as the band.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the one name that can just throw away money, because a situation like that, a world-class destination venue does not exist on a local scene. I've never played the Tampa Theater. I've played on stage at the Tampa Theater when Creative Loafing used to do their Best of the Bay Awards there years and years ago. But I mean, they don't do local shows. Look at that venue. We played the Palladium, and one of our upcoming shows is going to be at the Palladium in St. Pete.
Gorgeous, but I'll tell you what. Here's the one thing is I saw Iron and Wine there. I saw Jeff Tweedy there. Who else did I see there?
Talking Tampa Theater.
Tampa Theater. Yeah. Wealthy people at softer shows are fucking annoying. I want to go upstairs and beat the shit out of every surgeon that's heckling, Iron and Wine or Jeff Tweedy. I just like.
Well, I heckled Iron and Wine the first time he played at the old Orpheum. And that was before Will and I knew each other. And Will was wanting to beat my ass that night. We didn't find that out until years and years later.
Well, coming from more of a punk metal sensibility, I mean, you can do whatever you want at Slayer. You're not going to fucking hear it.
Sure, yeah.
But, Jeff Tweedy, is like calling out Wilco songs and all this other stuff. And, both him and Sam Beat, they're sardonic and they'll kind of give it back. But I was getting so frustrated at both those shows. It's like, these people don't know how to act. They don't know how to. Right. But I guess maybe I'm just becoming an old man.
I mean, I would agree with that, even though I've participated in that behavior, like being the asshole at the show. I've done that in the past, and I own up to it.
Yeah.
I don't do that much anymore.
So do you think, are you sold on maybe a destination venue being the thing? Or?
I think it's more than that. I really do. I think,
because the music's here.
The music is here. The talent is here. And, we've kind of historically lost talent to New York City and Austin and Nashville. Like, the people that really want to make something happen have to leave because the resources aren't here. The resources isn't seen. Like, Skipper's is closing down. That was a big thing. WMNF hasn't been able to do Heat Wave and represent that many local acts on a regular basis as they used to do. Like, the business models of that has changed. And, there's just not enough money in it these days in the live music experience. And it's unfortunate because I met people that used to play Gasoline Alley in the 70s or 80s or whenever it was, like way before I ever moved here. And they were making basically the same that we're able to make now, playing much bigger venues this many years later.
Right.
Like, say $1,000 is the number. You were making that on the beach 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That might be what a really good band would draw at a pretty big show.
Right.
How does that become something that has social and community significance?
Well, and
there's not somebody pissing away Vinnick money on a big venue and allowing shows to be lost leaders in order to establish that type of scene.
Well, and I wonder too, like, can you buy it, or can you pay for it?
Well, you build it and they'll come.
Yeah. Because you look at the different scenes, and very few of them had a benefactor. They were just happenstance.
What are the guys' names that just opened up the studio in Ybor City? I think Matt Reisinger works out of there, and Sammy Hughes works out of there. It's like a video audio production studio. Yeah. It's going to be a venue space or something. Like, they're in the heart of Ybor City trying to make something happen, and then COVID hits, and now people can't even come around and hang out at the studio.
Right.
And they can't have backyard barbecues at the place that's right around the corner from the entertainment district.
Right.
All the city beating up Ybor City over the regulations beating up venue owners and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the way of this utopian scene being able to happen, but it really comes down to resources.
Yeah.
And I think if what Tom is fighting for can happen on some level, and then people can see the impact of those resources put in the right place and managed by people like Tom and by people at the Basement East and by, these legendary venues that make up this touring network, then there's an opportunity to bring people down to down here.
Yeah.
A lot of bands don't come to Florida.
Well, it's that little
just don't.
dangling.
I mean, I can show you on the map where bands come, and big bands from Europe fly into Miami, get on the highway, and then go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
They typically don't stop.
Yeah. It's a weird. That's the
other part of the business I know pretty well, the promoting and the touring and the routing and stuff.
Well, as a fan of the Minutemen and Black Flag, and hearing how they kind of built their own tour. But it's true. Tom's taught me a lot about that. Like you kind of have to have things close enough for each other that it makes it worth people kind of continuing down that little.
We were just talking about this last night. I had a Facebook memory come up the other day, and I posted up with great excitement that we had just filled up for $3.07 a gallon.
Yeah.
This is when it was like $3.60, $3.70.
Right.
Out west, it was in the $4.50 a gallon. And we were touring through all of that and just pissing away money in every single town, just buying gas and paying $120 a night for a hotel. Like there's not a whole lot to bring back home.
Right.
The only reason we were able to tour is because we do pretty well down here. People drink when they come to our shows. So we make pretty decent money for a local band, and we would take that money and spend it at gas stations across the country.
Yeah.
Now it's $2 a gallon again. If things were open and we were able to tour, there is an opportunity.
An argument for it.
But there's got to be venues.
Right.
Ultimately, there's that distribution network of this talent has to exist. And there's got to be a draw for all of that talent to come here.
Right. Well, maybe next year around this time you'll agree to come back on and we can kind of look back and
Kelly Elisham get her.
Please, I recruit. I recruit anybody that comes on to send me people because I've got a ravenous appetite for hearing the stories and listening to the music and understanding it better. And
but I started this part too wanting to talk about Will. We've been playing a bunch on and off through this entire 15-year period. And we finally got a pretty rad band together, and we're getting ready to start booking shows too. And I wanted to just give him and they call themselves the Power Bottom. Do you know Sean Pomeroy and Adam Reback?
I don't think so.
They also play
Power Bottom.
They're a rhythm section. They're
it's a great
Band of Sorrows.
Turn of phrase. Yeah.
They're booking shows and promoting and producing stuff. And, so they're the rhythm section, and we're ready to get back and playing shows too. So that's the thing. If I can fill up my calendar, I'm a happy man.
Happy man.
You got to get those multiple streams of opportunities that come in.
Well, I look forward to seeing what the next year holds from you. I'm sure it's gonna go the way it needs to. I mean, the great thing about art is it survived darker times than these. So that's the one thing that kind of carries me through is if it can get through. Auschwitz, if it could get through the Roman Empire, if it can get, it can get through COVID. But anyway, thank you again so much. Great interview. Good talk with you. I really love your guys' music. And please, if you listen to this show and haven't heard of them, check them out this weekend. It's a great soundtrack to your weekend.
All right. Thanks again, Josh.
Take it easy.